We're counting down 10 recorded outdoor deaths where heat, altitude, exposure, and isolation turned familiar adventures into fatal traps. From desert temperatures above 120 degrees to an alpine blizzard that killed an entire school group, and a jungle disappearance that left behind 90 photographs taken in total darkness, each case reveals how quickly the margin for survival can vanish. Some of these victims were found just yards from safety. Here are 10 cases, starting with number 10. In the 10th place, the June 2025 death of Hannah Moody on Arizona's Gateway Loop Trail brings the region's heat crisis into sharp focus. At just 31 years old, Moody set out for a day hike in the McDowell-Sonoran Preserve as temperatures climbed to 102 degrees Fahrenheit. She reportedly documented carrying a large amount of water, but failed to check in with friends that evening. Her body was discovered about 600 yards from the Gateway trailhead, and the Maricopa County Medical Examiner ruled the cause as accidental environmental heat exposure. This case stands out because it puts a human face on Maricopa County's staggering statistics: 608 confirmed heat-related deaths in 2024, with dozens more under investigation by mid-2025. Experts warned that in Arizona's dry heat, water alone isn't always enough. Hikers are urged to check official advisories, share their route, carry backup communication, and be ready to cancel plans when conditions exceed personal limits. Sometimes the margin for survival is only a few degrees. Number 9. Bobby Graves' death at the Disneyland Halloween Half Marathon reveals how even well-organized endurance events can leave little margin for error when extreme heat is involved. Known online as @CalebTravels, Graves recorded a video the day before the September 2024 race, urging fellow runners to stay hydrated and listen to your body. Southern California was in the grip of a record heat wave, with race day temperatures climbing into the mid-90s Fahrenheit and humidity amplifying the strain. Despite his own warning, Graves collapsed during or near the end of the race and was transported to a nearby hospital, where he died of heat-related cardiac arrest. Medical experts draw a distinction between the immediate cardiac event and the underlying heat stress that triggers it, especially during sustained physical exertion. The incident underscores that organized support, water stations, and medical tents cannot eliminate the physiological risks of exertional heat. When symptoms start, dizziness, chills, confusion, listening to your body means stopping, cooling down, and seeking help before it's too late. 8th place, Blake Chaplin's final hike on Death Valley's Golden Canyon Trail shows how even a well-marked popular route can become deadly when the environment turns hostile. On August 8, 2021, Chaplin, age 52, set out as temperatures soared between 109 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite the trail's reputation for accessibility, the heat proved overwhelming. Chaplin's death, attributed to heat exposure or heat stroke, occurred just 3 days after another fatality on the same path. This cluster of incidents underscores a critical lesson from heat rescue experts. Familiar terrain offers no protection when the mercury climbs. Desert conditions labeled as a dry heat can still overwhelm the body's ability to cool itself, especially in exposed canyons. The repeated pattern on Golden Canyon Trail highlights the need to check forecasts, heed official warnings, and cancel plans when temperatures make safe travel impossible. Even a short hike can turn into a life-threatening emergency when the margin for survival disappears. Number 7. Lawrence Stanback's death on Death Valley's Golden Canyon Trail exposes a hidden hazard of desert rescue. On August 5, 2021, Stanback, age 60, was found after succumbing to heat exposure or heat stroke while hiking in temperatures that soared above 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The trail, often seen as accessible, became treacherous not just because of the heat, but because rescue operations faced their own limits. When rangers attempted to recover Stanback, strong winds made it impossible to deploy a helicopter safely, a critical detail that shaped the outcome. Heat rescue experts point out that even the best equipped teams can be grounded by wind, leaving ground crews to navigate harsh terrain and high temperatures. This case stands out for showing that in desert environments, The ability to call for help doesn't guarantee rapid rescue. Hikers are urged to check both temperature and wind forecasts, and to recognize that a dry heat can still overwhelm the body and the rescue system when conditions align against survival. Number 6. The Mount Whitney Mountaineers route. Death stands as a stark lesson in the consequences of a single decision at altitude. In January 2026, 2 hikers set out for a Saturday night ascent of Mount Whitney, aiming for the 14,505-foot summit by the demanding Mountaineers route. As Sunday afternoon brought rising fatigue and worsening weather, one partner chose to turn back at 12,500 feet, while the other pressed on alone. The following day, rescue teams found the solo hiker's body below the North Face's notorious Final 400, an exposed section known for sudden storms and steep drop-offs. The official report cited environmental exposure or hypothermia as likely causes, though a possible medical event remained unresolved pending the coroner's review. This tragedy highlights how altitude, darkness, deteriorating weather, and isolation can converge at one decision point. Experienced guides stress that retreat is not failure. Setting and sticking to a firm turn-back point is a non-negotiable rule for survival in high mountains. Number 5. The reported fall of Gilberto Ramos at Angel's Landing in Zion National Park draws a sharp line between access control and actual fall protection. The trail, open since 1908, is infamous for its exposed knife-edge ridge, where drop-offs reach approximately 1,000 feet on either side. Over the years, at least 19 deaths have been linked to the route, with 17 attributed to falls from this exposed section. In April 2026, Ramos, age 68 from Laredo, Texas, reportedly became the first fatality since the park introduced a permit lottery for the chained segment in 2022. His fall from the chained section underscores that, while permits can limit the number of hikers, they do not change the physical risk of the terrain. Park safety experts point out that a permit system manages crowding, but cannot prevent slips or missteps on slick or windy days. The lesson here is clear. Even with a permit, hikers must monitor conditions, maintain secure footing, and be willing to turn back before the exposure becomes unmanageable. Number 4. The 2024 Death Valley motorcyclist case reveals how even the best-laid rescue plans can be undone by the environment itself. On July 6th, temperatures in Death Valley soared to a staggering 128 degrees Fahrenheit, setting a new daily record at Furnace Creek. An unnamed motorcyclist traveling along Artist's Drive succumbed to heat exposure despite posted advisories warning visitors to avoid strenuous activity during midday hours. The Inyo County Coroner's Office confirmed the cause of death as heat exposure, with no underlying medical issues or trauma. What distinguishes this tragedy is the reported inability of rescue helicopters to respond. Aircraft operating in such extreme heat face critical limits, with most unable to fly safely above 120 degrees. Hot air thins, reducing lift and engine performance, and at these temperatures, even a call for help can go unanswered. The National Park Service's after-action report emphasized that when the mercury climbs past the threshold, aerial rescue is off the table. For anyone venturing into the desert, the lesson is clear. Plan outings for the coolest hours, carry extra water, and never assume a helicopter can reach you when the heat is at its worst. Coming to the top 3, Steve Curry's final hours in Death Valley put a human face on the warning labels that most visitors overlook. On July 18, 2023, Curry, age 71, was photographed by a Los Angeles Times reporter as he crouched beneath a metal sign at Zabriskie Point, trying to escape the relentless sun in a reported 121 degrees Fahrenheit. When asked about the heat, Curry replied, "A dry heat," echoing the phrase so often used to downplay desert danger. That afternoon, he collapsed and died in the restroom at the Golden Canyon trailhead, a stark endpoint to a day that began with a single photo. Medical experts explain that dry air doesn't make 121 degrees safe. In fact, it can accelerate dehydration and overwhelm the body's ability to cool itself. Curry's death offers a clear lesson. In the desert, midday exposure is not just uncomfortable, it can be fatal. Extreme heat advisories are not suggestions, they are cancellation notices. Number 2, the 1954 Dachstein disaster stands as one of the most devastating group tragedies in alpine history. On April 15, 1954, 3 teachers and 10 students from Heilbronn, Germany set out for the Dachstein Massif in Austria, despite explicit warnings from local residents and the federal sports school about incoming snow, fog, and blizzard conditions. The group, aged just 14 to 16, pressed uphill as the weather rapidly deteriorated. By late afternoon, rain had turned to sleet and visibility dropped, trapping the party in deep snow and freezing temperatures. 16-year-old Dieter Steck's camera, later found beside his body, contained final photographs showing the group surrounded by thickening fog and snow, visual evidence of their last hours as the blizzard closed in. Rescue teams launched what was then the largest alpine search operation, but all 13 members were found dead over the following days. Alpine historians and mountain rescue coordinators point to this tragedy as a textbook case of decision-driven disaster, a documented weather warning, a vulnerable group of teenagers, and the fatal choice to continue despite every sign to turn back. The lesson endures. When a blizzard warning is issued, cancellation or retreat is not just prudent, it's essential. And finally, in first place, the disappearance of Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon on Panama's El Pianista Trail stands alone for the sheer depth of unanswered questions left behind. On April 1, 2014, Chris, age 21, and Lisanne, age 22, set out for a day hike in the highland jungle near Boquete. When they failed to return, a massive search began, but it wasn't until months later that fragments of their story emerged. Their recovered Canon PowerShot camera held 90 photographs taken in total darkness between 1 and 4 a.m. on April 8, 6 days after they started. Among these, one image appears to show the back of Chris's head with a dark mark described as blood near her temple, though the source and context remain unresolved. Phone records from Lisanne's Samsung Galaxy S3 and Chris's iPhone 4 document 77 failed emergency call attempts over 10 days, with the final device powering down on April 11th. No call ever connected, highlighting the isolation of the terrain and the limits of cellular coverage. Months later, only scattered bone fragments were recovered along a riverbank. Chris's remains were described as bleached white, while some of Lisanne's still retained skin tissue. DNA analysis confirmed their identities, but could not establish a definitive cause of death. The evidence, digital timestamps, file sequences, and the physical state of the remains offers a timeline but not an explanation. Digital forensics separated fact from speculation, yet the missing image file and the lack of a clear cause keep the case open. The lesson here is brutally clear. In remote environments, daylight turnarounds and redundant communication equipment are essential. The gap between what was recorded and what can be proven makes this case the most haunting on record, a reminder that even with modern technology, the margin for survival can vanish without warning. Across all 10 cases, one pattern stands out. Even familiar landscapes can turn deadly when warnings go unheeded or limits are ignored. The outdoors doesn't forgive wishful thinking. Conditions can shift faster than rescue can arrive. Ultimately, survival depends not on strength, but on respect for nature's unpredictability. The line between adventure and tragedy is always razor thin.